So joining us tonight is the amazing Tulsi Gabbard. And we're going to sit here and just have a conversation about the state of the country, and then we'll be taking your questions. But I have the most important question. Who has voted already? Raise your hand. All right, we got to do better than that, everybody. And I know we're working on a voting location here on campus. We need to make it too big to rig and to vote early, everybody. We need to vote early in this state. We're going to talk about that tonight, and let's get started. Tulsi, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. Aloha.
For those in the audience that do not know, you ran for President of the United States as a Democrat. You were the former co-chair of the Democrat National Party. You were in the middle of the DNC world, and now you have enthusiastically endorsed Donald Trump. Tell us all about it.
It all makes sense, right? For those of us who are paying attention, I first ran for office when I was 21 years old in Hawaii. I ran for a seat in the State House because I saw a bunch of politicians who cared more about the position and the power than they did about the people. At that time, I didn't come from a family that was involved in partisan politics. They were involved with service and the community, but I didn't have a party that I was attached to, and I had to make a decision of which party that I would join. I joined the Democrat Party because back then, over 20 years ago, it was still a big tent party. It welcomed people from all different backgrounds. It was a party that still actively stood up for free speech and against censorship, even of speech that they found to be offensive or abhorrent. It was a party that fought for civil liberties and civil rights, and it was truly the party of the little guy, nationally, but also in my home state of Hawaii. Fast forward to where we are today, everything that drew me to the Democrat Party really are the main reasons why I left the Democrat Party a few years ago. They have become the party of warmongers. They are the party of censorship of free speech. They are the party of power grabs of our civil liberties and freedoms. And they are the party of the elitist and permanent Washington establishment. There are so many examples, and we'll get into them, but ultimately, from my first year in Congress, within 6 months, we were talking about this earlier, I was 2 weeks as a new member of Congress. I got a call from someone who said, hey, how would you like to be vice chair of the DNC? And my response was, what is a vice chair of the DNC? I didn't know. I didn't know why they were calling me. I had a good guess. Based on identity politics, I checked a lot of the boxes that they were looking for. But I think that they thought that I was going to be someone who was just going to fall in line, was going to do what the party bosses said to do and use the talking points that they send out in the emails every day. And it took barely 6 months for them. I sat on the Foreign Affairs Committee at the time. President Obama came and said, hey, I want to get authorization from Congress to start a new regime change war in Syria. I did my research. I listened to their briefings. I heard their case and came to the conclusion that this would be bad for the American people and bad for our security. And I said so publicly, and that was their first indication of knowing I would not fall in line. I immediately got a call from the White House within 24 hours, not saying, hey, Tulsi, why do you disagree with us? You've been a soldier. You are still a soldier. You've deployed to the Middle East. What are you seeing that maybe we're not getting? They didn't say any of that. They called and said, Tulsi, how dare you go against your president? How dare you not fall in line? And from that point on, I think they recognized they had already put me in position as a vice chair of the DNC, that I would continue to be a voice of truth. It got to the point where I tried my best to fix the Democrat Party from within, and I realized that not only were they not interested in that, they would seek to destroy and censor and smear anyone who dared to challenge their positions and their policies. So they use the same playbook against me that you saw them use against Bobby Kennedy, that you see them use against anyone who dares to criticize them and who dares to tell the truth, which is why I'm here today.
And Tulsi, you ran for president and debated Kamala Harris. Yeah. By the way, she did very well when she debated Kamala Harris, let me tell you. And understand this, she ran for the presidency with the same values that you hold today. And this is what's so important for those out there that might lean liberal, that might think you're a Democrat. Your values might not have changed very much, but the Democrat Party has changed a lot. And you must reconcile those two. Can you speak to that, Tulsi, that the Democrat Party has left a lot of people?
Yeah, you know, Charlie, this is such an important point for, yes, those of you here, but you may be having similar conversations with friends of yours or coworkers or family members who don't know what they want to do in this election yet. They may not like any of the choices and feel conflicted about, you know, where the priorities should be placed, or feel like the Democrat Party doesn't represent you, but you're not quite sure if you belong anywhere else. We look at the Democrat Party of today, and it hurts when I really think about this, that it was once the party of peace, for example. There is not a single Democrat in Congress today who has voted against or spoken out against continuously sending hundreds of millions of our taxpayer dollars, over $1 billion at this point, to continue this proxy war against Russia via Ukraine, using the Ukrainian people's lives in what is a regime change war against Russia that is not only hurting them, but it's hurting us. We've got families in Western North Carolina right now who are homeless. They have nothing left. They are cold and hungry. And I have friends who are working right now. They have people coming to their volunteer medics saying, we've been drinking water from the contaminated lake and streams, and their esophagus is burning, and my kids are getting sick. Can you please help? And just today, we got another message that the White House sent another, $350 million to Ukraine. And yet they're telling us they have no money for people who are in Western North Carolina right now who are fighting for their lives. Their foreign policy is making us less safe and secure and closer to World War III and nuclear war than ever before. And so as you're having conversations with people, look past the party affiliation or the history or the legacy. Today's Democrat Party would be unrecognizable to someone like President John F. Kennedy. I believe it would be unrecognizable to someone like Martin Luther King Jr., who told us to look past our skin color and see each other for who we really are, our character, our integrity, our spirit. We have the opportunity in this election to shed those labels and focus on truly what is most important to us as Americans, as people, as humans, to our loved ones, and what kind of, when I say what kind of future we want in this country of freedom and peace and security and prosperity, those aren't just taglines or words that are put on a t-shirt or a bumper sticker. Nuclear war could spark at any time. At any time. So yes, we have a lot of problems to solve, but if we are in a position as we are now closer to nuclear war than ever before, there is no life. There is nothing else. That's why who we choose, all of us, who we choose, regardless of your party affiliation or your history or what you agree or disagree on, who we choose to be our president and commander-in-chief is the most important decision that we'll make on November 5th.
Amen. Couple points to that. Number one, I think we can all agree we should not send any more money to Ukraine while our own border remains wide open. Number two, why is it that the people of Western North Carolina are treated so terribly while people who break into our country get food stamps, luxury hotels, and private flights all across the interior United States? That is wrong and reprehensible. If it is sad to say, but if the people of North Carolina want help, you know what they should do? They should fly to Mexicali, break into America, declare asylum, and they'll get all the help they need. And that is a sad state of affairs. But Tulsi, I want you to emphasize a point you mentioned here. This audience is full of 18, 19, 20, and 21-year-olds. This is the audience that will be drafted into a war against Russia. This is an audience that will be involved in a proxy, not just a proxy war, but a hot war. Tulsi, you've served in our military. You've been on the front lines. When people hear, oh, nuclear war, World War III, I think there's some eye rolling. There's some, come on, that is sensationalizing things. Can you talk how serious it actually is and how immediate the threat is and how lackadaisical Kamala Harris is treating the fact that this audience could soon be drafted to the front lines of a major war against Russia?
Thanks, Charlie. I want to focus on three things in this regard. You talk about the draft. How many people here have registered, actively filled out the form and registered for the draft? So for the rest of you, you may not know that Congress snuck in a line into a piece of legislation that would automatically register every male for the draft when you turn 18, whether you know it or not. And another effort underway to make it so that women are drafted and automatically registered for the draft at 18 as well. Why would they be doing this? Why now? Why now, if not the warmongers seeing around the corner, hey, we got multiple wars that we are embroiled with in various regions around the world. They're hanging out and sharing drinks with their friends in the big defense contractors and military industrial complex. You notice as stocks may be going down in some other areas over these last few years, it's the military industrial complex. Their stocks are skyrocketing high. They are preparing for you to be forced to go to war, whether you believe in it or not, whether you choose to or not. Second thing, when we talk about nuclear war, we in Hawaii had a very real close call with what that experience may look like a few years ago. It was early on a Saturday morning in Hawaii. Cell phones started going off with an alarm. Some of you might remember hearing about this in the news that said, ballistic missile incoming to Hawaii. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill. 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Beautiful morning in Hawaii. Everyone's cell phones go off with this. Immediately, what's the first thing that crosses your mind? It says seek immediate shelter. If we got that message right here today, right now, where would you go? Where would you go? This is what happened in Hawaii. We had at our University of Hawaii college students just like you literally caught on CCTV cameras sprinting across campus trying to get into any cement-looking building thinking that that might keep them safe. A lot of the buildings were locked. It was a Saturday morning. We had people who were gathering their kids and hiding in their bathtubs as though that somehow might keep them safe. I got a message from a guy who caught on his iPhone. He lowered his daughter, his 7-year-old daughter, down a manhole and said, "Stay down here, honey. I hope I see you again." Another parent reached out to me after and said that he was in one town on the island of Oahu where I live, and he had one kid who was 20 minutes in this direction, another kid who was 20 minutes in that direction. And for all the parents in here, you will understand maybe his feeling when he said he had to choose, we got 15 minutes until all of this is over. Which of my children am I going to? How do you make that choice? Because when that attack comes, it's over. And while it may be difficult, and I understand, to conceptualize, this is the reality that we are living in right now, today. Because President Biden and Kamala Harris recently approved long-range missiles to be fired deep into Russia, Putin and Russia responded by changing their authorities that surround their use of nuclear weapons to say if they feel an existential threat, whether it's coming from nuclear weapons or not, they authorized the first strike use. That's the world we're living in right now. It will get exponentially worse if Kamala Harris is elected. The third thing I want to say to you about Kamala Harris, you might remember if you watched the debate between her and Donald Trump, one of the most striking moments to me, there was a lot that went on there, but one of the most striking moments to me was when she chose to look into the camera at all of us and say there is not a single active duty soldier serving in a combat zone anywhere in the world for the first time in a century. And she was so proud to say that. Meanwhile, you have soldiers who are deployed to Syria right now, watching her on TV in what looked like a tent, hearing her say this, saying, what about us?
What about people who are deployed to Lebanon, people deployed to Jordan, people who are deployed under fire from the Houthis in Yemen? People who've been killed under this administration. When we have someone who's asking us to give her our trust and our confidence as Americans, I can speak as a soldier who still serves. I'm a battalion commander right now. Asking for us to trust her to be our commander-in-chief. Yet she has no idea that we have tens of thousands of service members when she said that statement, as we do today, who are putting their life in harm's way in service to our country. How dangerous is it that we have a person who is so clearly out of touch or simply does not care? How do we trust her with the nuclear codes? The last thing I'll say on her with this is that the most dangerous thing, and I said this back in 2020 when we were both running for president on the Democratic ticket, the most dangerous thing that we could see as Americans is a Kamala Harris presidency where, in order to try to hide her insecurity and her weakness and her desire to prove strength, that she is a commander-in-chief, the first thing that she will do is use our men and women in uniform and the might of our military to go and try to prove that strength and suck us into yet another unnecessary, counterproductive, costly war. This is someone who cares about power, not the people, and nothing can be more dangerous for us than that.
So on that uplifting note, Tulsi,
Exactly.
talking about nuclear war, I do want to get to some of the other issues here, and one that you really care about. Then I want to get to questions. Few people know this, but Kamala Harris and Joe Biden together, they worked very, very hard to repeal Title IX. And Kamala Harris is running to try to be the first female president, which is funny because they can't tell you what a woman is when you ask them what a woman is. However, this is very important for any Democrat out there and for you to tell your Democrat friends, which is that according to the policy, not just the rhetoric, but the policy of the current White House administration, that Kamala Harris will continue, men will be able to enter into female locker rooms, and there will be no distinction between male-female sports. That is not, is that an exaggeration, Tulsi, at all?
It's happening right now.
It's happening right now. This is a policy. In fact, they say that you will not receive federal dollars of tax dollars if you do not allow men to go into female locker rooms. Now, I remember a time when the Democrat Party used to say that they were defending women all the time. Well, they only say that with one issue. Well, why are they not defending women from perverts going into locker rooms that want to harm women? And if that is not persuasive enough, Tulsi, I want you to talk about where you were yesterday in Reno, which is an issue that I want Donald Trump to mention every day from now to the election. Very simple. Donald Trump believes that men should not be able to compete in women's sports, period. That men should not be able to be in women's sports. I'm sure we have women athletes here and people that believe in fairness. Tulsi, talk about the San Jose State volleyball team, and then talk about how Donald Trump will not put up with this, and Kamala Harris is enthusiastic about the destruction of female sports.
First of all, isn't it just like surreal that one of the top priorities of a presidential candidate is to make it so that men and boys don't play in women and girls sports? This is the insanity of the Democrat Party that we're in today. I was in Reno last night. University of Nevada, Reno, women's volleyball team. They're in the news a little bit lately because they have an upcoming game against San Jose State. San Jose State has one of their players who is a biological male. The players on the women's volleyball team in Reno have taken a stand. The vast majority of players have said, we are standing up for fairness, equality, and safety for women in sports. We refuse to play against San Jose State. They would rather forfeit the game and take the loss because they believe in standing up for what's right. Their athletic director, the leadership of their school, came out with a public statement criticizing their own players taking this courageous stand. The school has made it clear that they will still have San Jose State go to the game. the game will still be on, and they will force their players, and they are standing strong and will not waver, to literally stand on that court and refuse to play, which they will do. I'm grateful to have been able to been there with them last night. They had a great game. They won the game. But just to thank them for their courage and to share with them the inspiration that they're giving to so many other women and girls and men and boys to take that stand and do the right thing. This is an issue that's affecting schools and families and girls across the country. It's one that, as Charlie mentioned, the Harris-Biden administration pushed this policy change of Title IX that's been around for over 50 years. That was the reason why we have so many female Olympians today. Wouldn't exist without Title IX. They didn't go through this by passing legislation through Congress, as you are supposed to do in a democratic republic. Instead, they backdoored it and did this rule change in an insidious way that not only made the changes that Charlie is talking about, but for every public school, K through 12, that gets federal funding to feed the poor kids who can't afford to buy breakfast or lunch, it's called free and reduced lunch funding. The Harris-Biden administration are telling the administrators of every one of these schools, unless you allow boys into girls' bathrooms, unless you allow boys to play in girls' sports, we will refuse to provide you with free and reduced lunch funding, therefore taking food away from the kids who are coming who need help the most.
It's 100% legit, by the way.
This is coming from the people who claim to care about the most vulnerable, who claim to care about the poor, who claim to care about the hungry, who claim to care about opportunity for women and girls and equal pay for equal work, all of their lines. But when you look at their actions, they don't care about it at all. They are pushing this radical agenda. Most recent one that we're hearing about is their overt support for parents to lose their children to the government if you refuse to abide by gender-affirming, quote-unquote, care and pronouns. They want the government to be able to take your child away from you if you don't call the child by the pronoun that they want you to call them. This is what a Kamala Harris presidency will be if we allow her in office.
So one final topic here, then I want to hear from the audience, is there's an amazing thing happening, everybody, and I hope you guys understand it and are able to take pause and understand you're living through history. That there's a realignment occurring. And there's very few realignments in American political history. A realignment is where all of a sudden constituencies realize that their values are better fit with another political party, and things start to change in real time. There's not been a serious realignment in American politics since the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s. There just hasn't been. Republicans and Democrats have generally had the same constituencies. Republicans have generally been the party of college-educated voters, more managerial class, more Northeastern, Rockefeller, Mitt Romney types. And the Democrats were more the party of laborers, people that would work with their hands. And the Democrats were always supporters of free speech. They were always supporters of civil liberties, and they were always skeptical of foreign war. But something has changed over the last 20 years, where the uniparty, which means that the establishment in both political parties are indecipherable. They're basically the same. But thanks to Donald Trump running, you're seeing a massive change, where now the Republican Party is the party of the muscular class, is the party of families, is the party of people that shower before work and shower after work. The Republican Party is now, by the way, you can laugh at them, but they're the ones that deliver your Uber Eats at 2 a.m. every night, okay? They're the ones that drove the trucks during COVID to make sure you guys had food, okay?
I see you. You're the one getting Uber Eats at 2 o'clock in the morning.
They're the ones that you say, oh my goodness, I don't know how to fix, I need a plumber, electrician, a welder. They're the ones that are the invisible voter of this country. They don't vote. They're not always talked to, but Donald Trump has brought them back in the fold. You see, the Republican Party is no longer the party of war. The Republican Party used to be the party of Bush and Cheney. They are now endorsing Kamala Harris. The Republican Party is now seeing a growing movement of young people. Look around you guys. This is supposed to be liberal University of Arizona, and this is a standing room only event. The Republican Party is the party that allows agreement and disagreement. I want to bring this home. I am a conservative. She ran for the presidency as a Democrat, and yet we agree on the big stuff. And you are living through a unification moment where now getting behind Donald Trump are people, conservatives like myself, Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy, the first Kennedy ever to endorse a Republican, Elon Musk, and others. And who is getting behind Kamala Harris? The warmongers of prior generations, the people that want more power in Washington, D.C. This is team unity versus a uniparty. Can you speak to this, Tulsi, as a final element, and then let's get some questions.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's something that I hope gives you hope as it does me, because we have people who are coming together as we should, as Charlie said, around the most important and fundamentally American values and principles, things that we all share in common, recognizing as President Trump has. I had a reporter who talked to me, and they're like, oh, you're going and doing all these events for Trump, and you're speaking at all these town halls. They must give you some pretty tight talking points to use, where I said, no, they never have. They've never given me talking points. They never said, Tulsi, you're not allowed to say this and don't talk about that. Not once. This reporter was shocked. They're like, are you kidding me? I said, no, not at all, because President Trump isn't afraid of someone who might disagree with him on something. He knows why I've endorsed him. We've had these conversations. I talk about the issues that are most important to me and why I believe his presidency, his next presidency, is our best hope to have a future in this country that is free and secure and peaceful and prosperous. We have the opportunity in an incredibly divided country. We have the opportunity to come together as Americans and bring about the most significant historic change in a government that is so deeply corrupt. Through electing Donald Trump, he cannot do it alone. He cannot do it alone. And for my friends, and I hear from them who are skeptical, they're like, Tulsi, how do you know that you're not going to have neocon warmongers in a Trump administration like there was last time? Well, don't take my word for it. Look at the fact that he has asked both Bobby Kennedy and I and others to serve on his transition team to make sure that we get the people in those positions, which we are actively doing right now. Get the people in those positions who are not just going to feed into the bureaucracy and put the bureaucracy over the interests of the people, the administrative over the interests of the people. Put people in these positions from top to bottom who are interested in the best well-being and interests of American people first. Not people who are looking for their next job in Washington or looking to write some tell-all book. People who are passionate and experienced. They care about peace. They care about securing our border. They care about the things that we all share most in common. This is what I am excited about. This is what over these next 20 days I hope you share with those in your lives who might need a little bit of convincing. We can bring about a government. I really believe this. We can bring about a government that our founders envisioned, that is truly of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Okay, so if you guys have questions, you guys can start lining up. We have a mic here, and I just want to summarize that. If you want to be able to own a home, an end to the endless wars, if you want free speech and a government that represents you, you vote Donald Trump. And vote early, everybody. We're going to go through that. Okay, let's start doing questions. Raise your hand.
Well, hi, Charlie. My name's Kendall. I was actually at Calvary Church, and I was 10 seconds away from asking you a question, so this is my chance. I feel like I could speak collectively for all of us as a generation, a community, when I say that it's discouraging to live in this generation right now. So my question for you is, if you could choose one message of faith to tell everyone, what would it be?
Well, thank you for that. One message of faith would be really simple. There is a God and you are not him. And that God loves you so much that he sent his son, Jesus Christ. And that whoever gives his or her life to Jesus Christ will find life and life more abundantly. That you must understand you aren't the center of the universe. It's not about what you want to do. It's what you ought to do, that we serve a perfect God and we submit to his will, and that you will go searching and seeking for, quote unquote, your truth. And you will end up in a very dark place, most likely. As soon as you realize that there is a divine order, that there's a cosmological truth above all of it, then all of a sudden life starts to have more meaning. You start to realize why you are here. You realize that you're not just a random clump of cells bouncing around University of Arizona, that you are created in the image of the divine, that you have a purpose, that there is a plan for your life, and that comes with obligations, responsibilities, and a destination. If you want to end depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, you want to end what's happening in this country, yes, we could talk about mental health all you want, but it is a spiritual sickness in this country at its foundation, and we need to have people give their life to Jesus. Thank you so much.
Hi, Charlie. I've been I've been following you for years. I mean, I love all the work that you've done. You've definitely saved a lot of us, especially economically and everything. I just want to say thank you for that first. And second off, I know the economy as bad as it is now. I just want to know, how much worse do you think it could possibly get?
I could do the warm-up routine. A lot worse. Let me tell you right now. All of you guys want to be able to own a home, right? This is not a political issue. By the way, home ownership is a good thing for a country. When a nation is renting, you are subservient to somebody else. When you are owning, you are able to say, this is my land. I'm able to build value, create wealth, and that I have a stake in the country that I live in. Home ownership should be accessible to all Americans. However, what's happened, thanks to Kamala Harris, is they've decided to spend $6 trillion unnecessarily, $200 billion of it on Ukraine, which therefore, when you flood the zone with cheap money, asset prices go up. So when you have more of something, all of a sudden, when you have finite, limited resource, those prices go up. To own a home in Arizona in 2020, when Donald Trump was president, you needed to earn $75,000 a year. Now that Kamala Harris is VP, want to become president, you need to be able to earn $135,000 a year for a single starter home in this country. Starter homes in the Valley and Phoenix have gone from an average of $450,000 a year to $600,000, not a year, $600,000. This is out of reach for many of you because they are creating a nation where you will rent for the rest of your life. If Donald Trump becomes president, he will bring down the price of housing, he will bring up your wages and end inflation and make home ownership achievable for everybody in this audience. And I'm going to tell you how. The most obvious is this. We have a big heart, and we welcome immigrants that come here the right way and the legal way. But when you have 10 million people that come here uninvited as newcomers that broke our customs, and you're competing against them from homes, prices go up. This is called supply and demand. It is the first law of economics. This is why sand is cheap and diamonds are expensive. When you have a lot of something, it gets cheap. When you have a little of something, it gets more expensive. So Donald Trump will facilitate the largest ever deportation effort in this country to put Americans first and to prioritize legal immigration. And finally, and most importantly, when you have energy prices that go up, everything gets more expensive. It gets more expensive to get the lumber to go build a home, more expensive to get the windows there. The green energy policies of Kamala Harris are making you pay more at the pump, are making your groceries more expensive. Donald Trump will drill, baby, drill, bring down the price of gas, and make it more achievable for you guys to be able to afford basic necessities.
We need a president who understands how the economy works. First sign of how things could get much worse, when you look at the last 3.5 years and how Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and all of their spokespersons have been patting themselves on the back for years, saying how great Bidenomics is, as the cost of living has gone up, as inflation has gotten worse, as the dollar is worth less and less. They refuse to listen to you and understand the reality of the struggles of your life, and instead look at each other and say, well, gosh, if only the American people knew what a great job we were doing, then we would be more popular. If only we messaged this differently, everything would be better. They are so far out of touch with the reality of our everyday lives. That should be warning sign number 1. Warning sign number 2, their answer is to print more money without any care or regard for how it impacts us today and how it will impact us for generations to come. The biggest suspense that we have is money going over to places like Ukraine. They just sent another couple $100 million yesterday. We look at Kamala Harris's solution to many of the challenges that we've brought up today and that Charlie has talked about. Housing, for example. What's the solution? Oh, well, I'll just give you $25,000 to put towards a down payment. You talk to any realtor, and I've talked to a lot, or you find them on social media, every single one says all that's going to do is drive up the cost of housing. They say, okay, you're getting 25 grand from the government. Cool. We can jack the price up another 50 grand. It will do nothing. You hear about her latest Black economic opportunity agenda that she just put out yesterday. What's the first thing? That she wants to give out $1,020,000 100% forgivable loans to Black entrepreneurs. What's a forgivable loan? A loan means you pay it back, right? Which, by the way, they're saying about all the money to Ukraine as well. That money is not getting paid back. Her answer to everything is print more money, hand out money, whether it's for forgivable loans or to pay off other people's college debts, not recognizing or understanding the direct implications of that and how much worse it will make our economic environment.
Thank you so much. And just said succinctly to your question that I didn't answer, she will lead us into a Great Depression, the likes of which is hard to comprehend. We're about to hit some very, very tough economic waters. You guys are feeling it right now. It'll get really bad. Only Donald Trump can save us from that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi, I'm a freshman here at the U of A, and I have a very, my roommate is born and raised as a Democrat, and we obviously have very different views. We normally just avoid the topic, but as we're getting closer to the election, I really don't think that is something that I can do anymore. What do you recommend I bring up, and how do you recommend I handle this situation? And do you also have any good talking points that would spark her interest in learning more about the conservative movement?
I would just encourage you to ask your roommate what are the things that she's thinking about and that she cares about as she's thinking about who she wants to vote for. If she says, well, I have to vote for Kamala because she's a Democrat, encourage her to go a little deeper. None of us, and I would never ask anyone to be a blind follower of any group or any party of any kind. There is so much at stake here. I'd find out what are the things that she really cares about and use that as the opportunity where if she says, well, you know, I'm worried about women's rights. Maybe you can share a little bit about some of the things that we're talking about here today. The economy, the border, security, crime, safe communities, peace and war. There is such a huge contrast on all of these, freedom of speech and censorship that allows us to disagree in public in the way that we sometimes do. So learn what she cares about most and use that as the opportunity to open the door.
Perfect answer. Thank you so much.
Hello, Charlie, and my name is Josiah Jackson. I'm a biosystems engineering student here at the University of Arizona, and I'm currently focusing on controlled environment agriculture. How can we maximize the agricultural output for set resources? And I sit on the AgriLife Council and lead a student organization that builds those systems and that provides the food for the campus pantry. So my specific question for you guys is, while the environmentalism movement and the Green Deal and all that stuff is primarily focused on the left party, what is your guys' perspective on the continued funding and subsidizing of research that would maximize the agricultural yield for the in-need areas of the United States, like North Carolina, like Arizona, where we have limited water use, in a sector of research that's primarily dominated by the Democratic Party?
Well, you seem pretty impressive. I'd fund your research, so I'll tell you what. I don't know much about it, but what you're talking about is smarter and better ways to be able to harness our agriculture. I'm all for that. And I think I will say one thing. There is this, and I would love to have Tulsi's thought, there is this belief that we as conservatives don't care about the environment. That, of course, is not true. We love the environment. We also love people, and we believe that people exist in the environment, and that when there is a decision to be made of people get harmed because you want to have some unknown Delta smelt survive in Central California, then that's not good for people. However, it's important to know that Donald Trump's record on the environment is one of his wins that does not get credit. In fact, carbon emissions went down during the Trump administration. Natural gas exploration went up, which is very, very good for the environment. Donald Trump believed in free market principles that allowed more entrepreneurs to invest in cleaner and more renewable ways for us to do energy. He just did not believe in a heavy hand of subsidies to do it. Do you want to talk about that, Tulsi?
The farm bill that goes through Congress every 5 years is one of the most massive pieces of legislation that gets through, and it covers so much, unfortunately, that very little has to do with how do we better grow healthy food to feed Americans in our country. I'll give you one quick example because this was one of the first votes that I took as a member of Congress in 2013 when the farm bill was coming around, and I was shocked that we had to vote on this. But there was an amendment to the farm bill that came through that would have allowed frozen pizzas to qualify for the fruit and vegetable nutritional requirement in the food pyramid in our public schools. I thought this was like a prank or something. I was like, are you kidding me? So we're going to vote to have frozen pizza meet the fruit and vegetable requirement. But this is the kind of thing that gets into the farm bill that benefits obviously some of the biggest mass-produced food corporations that are more interested in profits and don't care about the fact that they're poisoning people. So this is something that Bobby Kennedy is very focused on in the Make America Healthy Again movement of growing healthy food to feed people so we can have a healthy America again. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Hey there, good evening, Charlie and Tulsi. I'm Arturo, I'm a sophomore here at U of A. And in these last 2 years, I've been really invested into politics, getting to know more about politics. I even thought about going into a career into politics as well. And Tulsi, you've gone into the business. You're a representative of Hawaii. I'd like to know from both of you, what was it like running to be representative? And Charlie, if you have any plans to go join a political career, senator or president even.
No, but Tulsi.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
You're 19. So I was 21 when I first ran for office. I've been in and out of different public offices. My goal was never to have a political career or a business, so to speak. Really, my heart is committed to finding ways where I can best be of service to God and to the people of this country. And when I was 21, that's where I saw the opportunity to do that. I ran for Congress when I was 31 after I'd been deployed twice to the Middle East with the Army. I've been told throughout my life so many times, you're too young, you're too inexperienced, why don't you wait 20 years and then go back and try again? And respectfully, with all of the aloha in my heart, I would smile and say thank you. But isn't it time that we have fresh, new ideas and new energy in our government that actually is fighting for the people? So the one piece of advice that I always share with anyone who's thinking about running for office, whether it's the Board of Education or state legislature, Congress, or president, you don't have to go to an Ivy League school. You don't have to check some artificial boxes that some political pundit tells you have to check. What's most important is your motivation, what's in your heart. Why are you doing this? What are you hoping to accomplish? If you want to have a fancy resume and a title, I would beg you, please don't run for office. Run for office to be of service. These are public service jobs, and that's what we have to bring back into our government.
Thank you. Yeah, you bring it up. Yes, I'll sign the book. Yes, your question.
Hey, Charlie, my name is Jacob, and my question for you is, do you touch paper receipts, and how can I avoid this wave of estrogen spreading among young males?
I mean, I can't, you're half trolling, but like, I try to not have any estrogenic, let's just say, forces on my body. But yeah,
what about paper receipts in general? Like, what are your thoughts?
I actually never take a receipt, so.
Okay.
But not for the reason.
I just try not to take them. I don't know.
Great. Thank you. Next question.
Thank you.
Tucson. It's always something. Yeah.
Hello. Hey, my name is Joe. I'm a father. I have 3 kids, but I have been alienated from my kids. I see my 2 sons only one weekend a month. It's been a 5-year battle since my divorce that I've been trying to get back in my kids' lives, and I've been hearing you talk about how the statistics show that not having a father in the home leads to so many different negative things in their lives. What can government do to help fathers get more time with their children or even keep families together and promote the nuclear family?
Yeah, it's a tough issue. There's not an easy answer to that, and because I'd imagine there's court orders that you have to abide by, right? So yes, I guess the best piece of advice I could give is the time you have with your kids, really lean into it and really cherish it, and you have to maximize it. Look, there's a whole father's rights movement that has been going around for quite some time, and I think it deserves a fair hearing because there are a lot of dads that deserve and want more time with their kids, and they're not able to have it. And so, unfortunately and tragically, half of all marriages in this country end in divorce, which means there's a lot of broken families and relationships. So, thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm sorry to hear about that situation. Thank you.
Hi, Tulsi. Hi, Charlie. My name is Christine. My question is, 20 years ago, my husband and I would have been solidly in the middle class. Today, the middle class is rapidly disappearing. What do you think has been the biggest factor in the death of the middle class?
There's a couple things. The first of which, and this actually supersedes all the others, you have leaders that don't care about you. And that's not a policy, that's an attitude. And Tulsi can speak to this, there is a self-righteousness and an arrogance towards the American body politic where they just want your vote and they could not care about your well-being. This is why they hate Donald Trump so much, everybody, because he has brought you into the room. He has involved you in the process, and he's given you a voice. You're not supposed to have a voice. You're supposed to just fill out the ballot and shut up every couple of years and keep on giving them power. And so it used to be in this country, if the middle class was suffering, our leaders would worry, and then they would go deliver results for the American people. Let me tell you even more concretely. This audience, Republican or Democrat, if you are under the age of 30, you are the first generation since George Washington to have it worse off than your parents. To have it worse off. You will be poorer, sicker, more likely to be addicted to drugs, more likely to kill yourself. We have broken the social contract in this country. If there was one thing that unifies governments, it should be we're going to try to leave something as good or better for our kids. Can we agree with that? We have failed in that mission. We are handing the next generation $36 trillion in debt. 10 million foreigners that we don't know who they are in just the last 4 years. We have 2 proxy wars going right now and looming nuclear war. Young people cannot afford homes. Grocery prices are out of reach. The social contract is broken because the leaders don't care. Now, I could go deeper into policy if you'd like, but that is the fundamental through line as to why you are now part of a vanishing middle class.
One thing that goes along with that arrogance that you're seeing largely from the Democrat elite in Washington is this idea that, well, we know what's better for you than you do for yourselves, for your family, and for your kids. So let us make the decisions. Let us tell you what you're allowed to say and do. Let us tell you how you're supposed to raise your children. Or better yet, just let the government do it and you just step aside. I've had, when I was in Congress, a number of people would come in and talk to me and meet with me and warn me about this rise of populism that was happening during President Trump's first administration. And they're terrified of that, this rise of populism. And you're seeing it happening in different countries around the world because the Democrat elite are not alone here. The permanent Washington are not alone here. They are terrified of what? The rise of the people making our voices heard, saying, if you don't represent us, we're going to fire you and send you home. That is their worst nightmare and why we're seeing them throw everything in the kitchen sink at Donald Trump to try to keep him off the ballot, to try to throw him in jail, unfortunately, to try to even assassinate him, because they recognize that he has brought voice and is listening to the people and is promising to fight for us.